cabinets. Everybody brings their closets, brings your kitchen. It was different. We went to the grocery store. They were yelling at me because I didn't know you had to have your own bags. And I had my groceries. Oh, it was a mess. And I said, I don't want to live here.
Right.
And I went back, and then I realized, this is stupid. You got to go back. So I went back.
Did you leave by yourself, and did you leave Al and the boys?
I came back. No, the boys came with
Okay.
me. But we all came back. And I realized when you live in a foreign land, forget about the American dollar. Forget about what you live in, what you
when
have.
in Rome, do what the Romans do.
Now in Germany. This
Right.
is what you have. And so when I turned that way of thinking off, and I learned, and I made so many great friends. And I
It seems like you have always been your whole life very determined.
Yes.
With everything you do.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Who else is going to fight for me?
Right.
I
really
love that
cares?
mentality. Do you instill or do your best to instill that in your students, that type of mentality?
Absolutely. I don't want any woolly weaklings. I want people to stand up verbally, physically, confident.
I don't think I could make it in your school, I'll be honest. I think I'll be crying every day.
But that is part of the martial art training. And there's a lot of schools back then that didn't believe in tournaments.
Right.
But I always believed in tournaments because where are you going to go legally and be able to fight? And to see if
your stuff,
Kung Fu really is any good
Right.
when you're lined up with Japanese or Taekwondo or whatever.
Right.
You don't know them and they don't know you. You have no idea what's coming. And if you can beat them, then you think, oh, I know a little something, And so I didn't always win. I didn't always lose. But there came a period where I never lost. Won.
How many titles do you think you've had throughout your life?
I'm sorry?
How many titles do you think you've gotten?
Well, I have over 400 trophies.
Wow.
So I had a lot of titles. And, back then, a lot of tournaments were held on the weekend out in the park. But back then, a tournament was a tournament. Whether it was a park tournament, that was a big turnout.
Right.
Whether it was a major tournament, big. But tournaments were everywhere. And that's why, today we're teaching outdoors and this horrible virus. And it isn't too difficult for me. I started out teaching in the park.
Right.
I
It's like we're going back to the roots.
I'm going back to how I started,
That's beautiful.
Not all that hard. And I know I've traveled a lot and I've done a lot, but really I don't require a lot. I'm, believe it or not, pretty low key. It's hard to believe that, but I am. I can adjust to any environment.
I can tell just based on the story, the two stories that you
So
told us.
how many jobs have you held in your life? Because I know
I was a blackjack dealer when I was
Blackjack.
Wait, really?
Where?
Yes, in
Where?
Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe.
What was
He
it
used to
called?
be a dealer.
Harris and Harvey's.
Right.
I worked Harvey's.
You
White
worked
and Pearl.
Harvey's.
I think Harvey's White was probably not there. But I had a friend, Marcia and Mackie Ruiz, who lived in Lake Tahoe, and I used to go visit them. And that's what they did. They dealt blackjack. And I thought, I want to do that. They said, you're not old enough. I said, that's okay. We'll go get me a driver's license. And so we went to Zephyr Cove. We got me a driver's license. They said I was of age. They brought home a felt. They brought home the cards.
You had a fake driver's license.
Yes.
Yes, she had a fake ID.
For an ID. And so they taught me how to do the cards and how to play. And then when they said, okay, you probably do a pretty good job, they took me to meet the boss. And I went in. And of course, the boss later on down the line told me, we knew you weren't of age. They hired me anyhow. They started me out as a change girl, and then one night somebody got sick on the tables.
Oh, wow.
And they said, Malia, you got your opportunity. You get to deal cards. And I said, oh my God, really? And they said, the high limit table.
Oh,
High limit table. And so I went in there. And back then, I don't know how they do it now, but they have a deck of cards.
Right.
And so, the dealer would go and show hands clean to the catwalk. And then I would come in and I'd have to go, wait, they bring in another set of cards. Well, hands clean, we'll go. So it came time to shuffle. My first shuffle, the cards went up in the air. And the table said, yay, we have a green one here.
They knew.
We have a green one.
They were so happy. Wow,
We're gonna get free money.
Imagine using a single deck nowadays.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
they use like 4 or 6.
Yeah.
It was horrible. But they took me off the table several times because I was losing money for the house.
Right.
But I soon learned how to read cards. I could tell maybe what might be coming underneath, could see what you have on top, I can kind of guess what's on the bottom. Should I hit? Should I what? You can kind of figure it out when you do it for a while. And so I got into the habit. I would go across the street to Harris, put my paycheck on the table, and gamble it. Sometimes I won, sometimes I didn't. But I wanted to know what it felt like.
To be on the other side.
Yeah, on both sides of the table.
And so but I had
That's
a lot
cool.
of fun. But I finally said, okay, I know I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. So I stayed there maybe 2 years, and then I quit.
Where did you go from there? Where did you go from there? What's your next job?
Where did I go from?
Because this is hilarious. I mean, I would
This
have
is
never
awesome.
thought the way we hear stories about you and everything
All
that there was
martial
all
arts,
these other
all-
things.
yeah.
Well, I think I probably came back, and I got married because I wasn't married. I was just
Right.
I wasn't of age. That's when I met Tony and got married.
Right.
This wasn't Al. This was my first husband, who also amazing man. Loved him dearly. He was just older than me, and he was the one who taught me how to ride horses, how to water ski, snow ski. He taught me everything that I wanted to do that my mother would never let me do.
Tony.
Right.
And but he was a lot older than me, and he was a wealthy man. And to him, it was, instead of going, he would give me the money and say, "Here's the money. Here's the keys to the boat. Take your friends and go."
Wow.
And then he worked. Remember, I said he worked night shift.
Right.
And that was why I started the art. And I was alone so much, and he was older than me, and I just hadn't lived, and there was nothing really. Could I say anything was really wrong with him? No, it was just I was again being put into a cage. And
Right.
can't do this, you can go water skiing, you can go snow skiing, but you can't do this, you can't do that.
You were like a
And-
trophy wife.
Yes, and I was like being back with my mother who wouldn't let me do anything in school, couldn't play
Right.
sports,
No
couldn't do this.
sports. Yeah.
And so eventually we divorced, and it was never did we become bitter enemies. After all, I didn't want that, and we stayed friends. In fact, he came to visit me when I lived in Europe. And
Wow.
He and Al went on vacations.
Without you.
That's true.
Your current and your former husband
Yeah.
vacationing together.
That's crazy.
That's
I
the
mean, they're-
effect this woman has on
Yeah.
people.
No,
Wow.
yeah.
No, they were on vacation, and it was. I just can't. I understand. There's some nasty breakups, and I
Right.
hate him and this and that. But life is too short to hate. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. You're not perfect. Al's not perfect. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
I don't want to be perfect. Then there's nothing to strive for.
I love that.
You got to keep working.
Yeah, it does become a 24-hour job being married to somebody and making sure that you both get something out of the relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's really tough if you don't. If you're being one-sided, then obviously
It's never going to work.
Yeah.
And so, we did divorce, but we were friends. He spent Christmas with us, and he
Wow, that's
was
great.
friends with Mark, and the whole family.
So he
was
met the
friends.
boys and everything, and
Everybody
wow.
was good together, But I probably because it's my personality, I make
Right.
sure it happens.
yes,
Right.
yes you
yeah.
do.
Oh, like,
I don't want tension. I hate tension.
No, and
There is no
you set your
reason.
mind on something,
yeah.
you accomplish
she
it.
definitely
Yeah.
does.
I'll do it. I'll
You just
make it happen.
just go, just a non-stop juggernaut. Just
Yeah.
So
Heading towards your-
when did the
Wow.
pipeline job come in? Because I know of
the
this.
pipeline job.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
I love this story.
That was interesting. At one time, they wanted to make a movie out of that, and Cher was going to play me.
What? Okay.
But
Okay.
anyhow, we don't get
How
to
does-
Cher yet. How that happened was I was living in the West Indies, and I knew a man by the name of George Kikes, and he was a specialized welder who
Right.
worked these specialized pipeline jobs, and we've been friends forever. And he called me when I was living in the West Indies.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm no longer in Germany. I'm in the West Indies. Okay. And he said,
Your Mexican
Maria,
restaurant.
he says, the Union Hall is having problems with women because they don't hire women to
Right.
do welder helper jobs on the pipeline because the union says it's a big expense, the women can't do it, it's a hardcore job. No, they wouldn't, so they really were having trouble. So George says, I know somebody that could do that job. And they said, yeah. No, really, she could do this job for you, and you
Right.
get what you want. So he called me and he told me about the job, and I said, what? What pipeline? What are you talking about? He said, go to Concord. This is the address. This is the man you're going to be interviewed by for the pipeline. Well, what do I know about the pipeline? I went to once I got there, I realized it was a yard with all these hardcore construction workers and pipes, and I think I'm going for interview, so I'm all dressed up, pretty, looking nice, and so I became shy, and I didn't want to go into the
Right.
yard. I had all kinds of thoughts in my head.
Yeah,
Look at
talk
me,
about
high-heel
standing out.
shoes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
go marching into the yard, and so. This man walked by and he says, "Oh, you lost, young lady?" I'll never forget.
Are you
I
lost?
said, I'm hopefully I wished I was, but I think this is the right spot. He says,
Wow.
what are you here for? I said, I'm here for an interview. He says, oh, a secretarial position. No secretary. Welder helper. And he looked at me. Huh? Welder helper? I
That's
said,
funny.
yes. He says, and he was laughing. I even think this man might have been from Texas. So he said, come with me. He come with me, young lady. And then he took me into the yard and he took me up to the man I was supposed to meet. I was introduced. Of course, they were skeptical that, George, what did you send us? But anyhow, they hired me. I came back, different clothes on, next day. And they right away started teaching me how to use grinders, peanut grinder, big boy grinders, how to tack the pipe, how to heat the pipe, how to carry the rod, how to go inside, how to repair. I mean, all these things.
Right.
And so I learned, and it was just to hold that grinder.
Uh-huh.
And all I ever remember them telling me, don't let it come back because it can cut your face. Oh dear God! I held on I still have marks from. These marks are from when I used to hold on to the
white
team
knuckling everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to let this come back. And so I learned how to do the job. And then they took me out. I went out on the line. I have
Wow.
pictures of me somewhere. And you have to wear all this
Heavy gear, I'm sure.
heavy stuff and
Yeah.
helmets and masks because when the welder is doing his job, sparks are flying everywhere. But my job was, I was actually a sous chef to the chef.
Right.
I was a slave to
Yeah.
the welder. I carried
Go get
all
me
the-
this, go get me that.
I
Yeah.
learned to drive the big truck, and I learned how to fill the tank up with gas, and I did it
Well,
for a
let me
year
ask
and a
you,
half.
because you have a very small frame. And
Yeah.
I could just imagine you inside of this giant pipe, all this gear on, and you're just walking alike. There's no big deal.
I used to run to work from the hotel. Honest to God, the welder,
Oh, my
your
God.
welder would pick you
Yeah.
up. And I'd say, no, just take my stuff. I'm going to run to the yard. He'd say, you're going to run? Yeah. I'd leave early, jog to the yard. And that became a thing. Everybody said, here she comes, the jogging.
The jogging
Yeah.
assistant.
But I always jogged. I would jog to work. But yes, I was able to accomplish the mission. There are lots of women out there doing welder jobs, welders and.
And they owe it all to you.
Mhm.
That's
Well, I don't know
awesome.
if they owe it all to me, but
Well,
I did what I was hired to do.
Right.
To prove
and I
it.
was honored
prove it,
that
yeah.
the union asked me to stay
Wow,
on.
that's crazy.
When the job was over with, that they would send me out on another job. But I said, no, this was only an experiment to help the future. This is not my career. I don't
Wow.
want it. So I had a taste of it, thanks to a man by the name of George Kikes, who opened that door for me, and then I proved that I could be worthy of.
George said that I could do it. I'm gonna do it.
I can do it. I can do it.
now,
But-
in the martial world,
Mhm.
Wow.
it really wasn't something, especially back then, because I kind of grew up in the 70s, taking martial arts, Kenpo karate. We didn't have a lot of women in our classes. More so during your time, which is little.
I started in the 60s.
In the 60s. How was that for you, being the one of the few women that was in the class? How was that?
Well, at the time, it didn't enter into my head. I didn't know anything about martial arts. I don't know, maybe this is the way it's supposed to be. However, when I started, there must have been maybe 20 women.
Really?
When I first started, my first day there. And I'll never forget my first day at our school. Everybody was really kind to me, and they knew I was new, and they told me, and I kept thinking, I must have come the wrong night. This can't be my night.
Right.
But they told me, stand there, and this was the first time I realized who Al Dacascos was. And so I'm standing there waiting. Everybody's waiting for the mighty Sifu. I'm waiting with them, waiting for the Sifu and the teacher. And so I'm standing there, and then in walks this man. And I thought, I know that man. He's the man that was the repairman.
He was hanging on the ceiling.
He's the repairman. But then he came in, and oh my God, it was Al Dacascos, the teacher. And so, but then again, I trained, and I realized I could do. Al was happy to see me as a student because before I came into Kung Fu, I was a water skier. And I had legs, I was strong already, good foundation for
good
skiing.
base, yeah.
And so Al told me months later he was really happy that I was strong. He could see it, that I was going to make it. I wasn't, no pushover. He said, I'm really happy that you stayed because, you have what I've always wanted, a good female. Maybe it'll be you, or it will be me.
She's already determined. It's gonna be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No, but then that was how I met Al. He was my teacher, my friend. My coach, and became my lover, and then became my husband. And then now he's back to square one. He's my friend, and it'll stay like that. But yes. The art with all those women, and I could understand after a while, I would see one drop out, two drop out, three drop out. I realized that the school was a school of men. They didn't really want women in there because the women interfered with their tough training. They had to take the time,
Right.
Mind you, that was not the typical kind of school of today. Those guys came there to rock and roll. They want to punch and hit and kick. And then you have these women that can't do it, boo-hooing it, So all the women eventually left, and they kept thinking they were going to get rid of me. And I told them, you can try all you want, but I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying. I'm staying in this school, and I'm going to learn. And so I was like the last one standing, and I stayed in the school.
That's amazing.
That is wonderful.
And I took whatever was dished out. Al had a strange way of testing black belts way back then. It's real. He tested them as they should be tested, but he would throw. You could be somewhere sitting here like this, and he might say, "I want you to." No, I'm not going to use that as an example.
Whoa! Somebody died on that.
Okay, a good example. I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I'm going to fight, and I'm sitting there up in the what are they? Where you sit there?
The balcony.
The balcony. Okay. Sitting up there, looking at the day's activities. I'm so excited! I'm here. I'm going to fight. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Sam Aldridge's tournament. He gave the best tournaments. Anyhow, I'm sitting there waiting. And then I hear the man on the microphone come on, and he says, "Oh, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special entertainment, a special this evening event. We have a woman who's going to do 8-man multi-man attack." And I thought, wow, she must really be good. Somebody's going to do a multi-man attack with 8 men. And I'm sitting there, and I'm listening, and then I heard Malia Dacascos.
And this is Al.
Was that Al on the radio?
Yeah, no, and they said it's good. Malia Dacascos is going to perform.
Did Al set this up?
Yes, that's part of my testing. that I didn't know about. And I sat there. I never got up so fast. Down there. Ow, there's been a mistake. Somebody's playing games here. He said, no, it's no mistake. During the half time, you're going to be attacked by 8 men you've never seen before. What? And I got so scared. I can't do this. Back there in the day, tournaments didn't have a little handful of people. It was like going to a basketball game.
Right.
Both sides
Wow.
were cheering and rooting. I mean, you're adrenaline.
Hundreds, yeah.
And I was looking, ow, why? He said, you want to be a black belt, don't you? I'm like, oh, dear God. So, sure enough, it came my time. I thought maybe it would have, but it did. They called my name. And I'll never, ever forget. I was so nervous, and I had on my kung fu boots. And here came these guys. Never seen them before in my life. And there they were. They'd come at me, and I don't know what I did, to be truthful, but I only do know that I stepped on my own foot, and I caused myself to fly forward into the men. And I thought, oh, this is great. So all I did was throw long